This happened in October 2020. I was part of a small hiking group, me, two close friends, and one guy from a local meetup app who seemed experienced enough to join us. Our plan was to tackle a remote 18-mile section of the Appalachian Trail across the Roan Highlands, a scenic area that straddles North Carolina and Tennessee. High elevation, crisp fall air, endless ridges. Perfect time of year. We started on a Friday morning, hiked about 9 miles the first day, and made camp just past the summit of Grassy Ridge Bald. We found a small clearing in a patch of trees just off the main trail. It was beautiful. Cold but calm, golden leaves on the ground. No other hikers for miles. Around 8 p.m., the sun dipped and the whole forest fell quiet. Too quiet. Even for fall, there were no bugs, no owls, no wind. Just nothing. We sat around a low fire, told stories, made jokes. But something felt off. Every time someone stopped talking, we could feel it, like the trees were listening. Around 11 p.m., we all turned in. At about 1:30 a.m., I woke up to the sound of crunching leaves. I thought maybe a deer was sniffing near our food bag. I unzipped the tent an inch and peeked through. But what I saw was not a deer. There was a figure, tall, thin, pale, standing just beyond the trees. At first, I thought it was a hiker wearing light-colored gear, but no headlamp. No movement. It was standing completely still. I blinked, thinking my eyes were playing tricks. But then it took one slow step, crack, on dry leaves. Then another, toward my tent. My heart started pounding. I tried to stay calm. Then it disappeared behind a tree. I lost sight of it. A minute later, I heard footsteps, circling. Not fast, not aggressive, just methodical. As if it was inspecting each of our tents. The worst part? It never made a sound above the leaves. No breathing. No cough. No talk. Just walking. I considered waking the others, but I was afraid to move. I just laid there, gripping my knife, staring at the tent ceiling, trying not to breathe too loud. Eventually, the footsteps faded. I didn't sleep at all. At dawn, we got up and started packing. I didn't say anything until my friend Liam pointed at the ground outside his tent. Footprints. Not boot prints. Not even socks. Bare feet. Huge. Wide set toes. He counted 6 prints circling his tent. And mine had even more. The spacing was unnatural. Like it had a massive stride. It had walked around all 4 tents. Twice. And one print stopped right at my tent flap, exactly where I had peeked out. I told the group what I saw. The meetup guy, Ryan, turned white. He said he'd heard whispering outside his tent, but assumed it was us talking. Only we'd all been asleep. We hiked hard that day, longer than planned, just to get closer to the next trailhead. At the ranger station, we told them what happened, showed them photos of the prints. The ranger didn't ask many questions. He just looked at the photos, then said, "You camped near the listening line, didn't you?" We asked what that meant. He sighed and said, "There's a part of the Roan Range where the forest goes real quiet. Locals say something walks that ridge when it's cold. It watches, sometimes whispers, never speaks out loud." We asked if it was a person. He looked at us and said, "If it was, someone would have caught it by now." He didn't smile. He didn't joke. We never hiked that section again. And every fall, I still dream of those steps, the quiet circle, and something outside my tent that knew I was awake. I did solo hikes often, but this one made me stop for a long time. It happened in late July 2019, during a trip to Mount Rainier National Park. I had a week off and decided to push myself, do 2 nights out alone with no planned campsite. Just pack light, bring my GPS, and move where the trail led. By day 2, I found this perfect ridge just above 6,000 feet, overlooking the tree line. and with a view that felt unreal, like the whole world below was sinking into clouds. I set up camp, ate, and crawled into my bivy sack just as the sun dipped below the mountains. It was supposed to be peaceful. Around 2 a.m., I woke up needing to pee. I sat up in the cold, unzipped the bivy, and stepped out slowly. Everything around me was still. The stars were so clear it felt like I could hear them. But then, I heard something. Not loud, just deliberate. Crunch, crunch. Soft footsteps on dry rock. Not animal-like. Too slow, too rhythmic. I crouched and held my breath. I thought maybe another hiker had wandered nearby. But who hikes this high this late? The sound was getting closer. I flicked on my headlamp and swept the light toward the sound. Nothing. But then I heard it again, this time to my left. I turned the light. Again, nothing. So I did something I regret. I whispered, "Hey, you okay?" Silence. Then a whisper back. Too quiet to understand, but it was definitely human. I scanned again with the light. Slow, steady sweep. And for a split second, I caught it, just outside the beam's edge. A figure ducking behind a boulder, wearing something dark. I called out again, louder this time. "I'm armed." Silence. I waited 5 minutes. Nothing. Eventually, I crawled back into my bivvy with my knife clutched to my chest and didn't sleep at all. At sunrise, I packed everything in less than 10 minutes and took off without breakfast. But about half a mile down the trail, I saw something that made my legs shake. Footprints. Fresh. Someone had followed my path, same trail direction, but barefoot. And on one of the rocks, just off trail, there was something sitting neatly folded, a black windbreaker, with a note under it. I picked up the note and read only 3 words. "Don't come back." It wasn't scribbled. It was printed, neatly, carefully. I stuffed the jacket in my pack and hiked the next 5 miles without stopping. When I reached the ranger station, I showed them the jacket and the note. They didn't laugh. One of them said, "We've had reports like this before. Always near the ridges. Always solo hikers." I asked if they thought it was a prank. They didn't answer directly. Just told me, "Don't solo up there again, especially above the clouds." I didn't need convincing. I still hike, still love it, but I never go alone, and I never sleep where no one else is supposed to be.
In the summer of 2018, I finally crossed something off my bucket list, an overnight hike to Half Dome in Yosemite. It was supposed to be a once-in-a-lifetime trip. I trained months for it, planned every detail, reserved my permit early, packed smart, and set off with one other friend. The hike was long but beautiful. We took the Mist Trail up through Vernal and Nevada Falls, then set camp about a mile below the subdome to rest before the final climb. There were a few other hikers camped nearby, scattered, quiet, respectful. At around 2 a.m., I woke up, not to a sound, but to a feeling. You know how sometimes your body just tells you to wake up? I unzipped the tent and stepped out. The granite was cold under my feet. The stars above Yosemite were so clear it felt like standing in space. Then I saw something that didn't make sense. At the base of the subdome, about 100 feet uphill from us, was a tent. Small, black, but I hadn't seen anyone set up earlier. And I would have noticed. There weren't that many people around, and that area was exposed. Too steep. No real flat spot. But there it was, perfectly pitched. I stared at it for a while, waiting for any movement. A flashlight. A cough. Something. Nothing. I went back into the tent. The next morning, around 6:30 a.m., we geared up to head to the cables for the Half Dome summit. As we passed the same area from last night, the tent was gone. No footprints. No sign it had ever been there. Just raw granite. We laughed it off. Maybe I dreamed it. Maybe it was shadows. But on the way up the cables, we noticed something else. A few feet off the trail, tucked under a boulder, was a pair of old hiking boots. Torn, weathered, laces frayed, and inside one of them, a folded piece of paper. It simply said, "Where did everyone go?" My friend and I stared at each other, trying to play it cool, but neither of us touched the boots again. We summited, took our photos, came down, and didn't talk much the rest of the hike. A week later, I emailed a ranger contact I'd spoken with when reserving the permit. I casually mentioned the tent I saw and asked if anyone had reported a lost hiker or weird activity. He wrote back the next morning. His email said, "We've had rumors about that spot for years. Always a single tent, always gone by morning, but no one's ever admitted seeing it up close. That's why we don't recommend camping too close to the subdome, especially if you're hiking alone." Then, one line at the end I still think about. "If you see it again, don't go near it, and don't answer if it calls out."